psychological developmental stages, many people often adhere to some sort of Sigmund Freud's findings, because he is technically the father of psychology. Now, however, many scientists have come up with new theories of understanding children's developmental stages. Now, many of us, if not now or all, will have children in some point of the future, and understanding your child's development is easily an asset to your parenting style. And as a second-year child development major and aunt to 3 children, this particular subject sparked my interest. Learning about Erikson's psychological stages of development can make us begin to better understand our children. First, I will give background on Erikson and why he developed this theory. Second, I will introduce you to the different stages of his theory, and finally, I will explain my decisive information. So first, who is this Erikson guy, and why did he develop his theory? In order to better understand the importance of this psychological developmental theory, we must first explore the background of Erikson's greatest inspiration, and then Erikson himself. So, the father of psychology, as I stated before, is Sigmund Freud, and he is most famous for his psychosexual stages of development, which he developed in 1923. And his theory is comprised of 5 different stages: oral, anal, phallic, latent, and genital. And he believed that our life is solely based around sexual desire and tension. So in an article published on the Simply Psychology website by Saul McLeod in 2008, Sigmund believed that life was built around tension and pleasure. All tension was due to the buildup of libido, and that pleasure came from its discharge. So now that you see a little bit about Sigmund Freud, I will talk about Erikson, and that's what he looks like. Can you flip to the next one? Okay. So Erikson was greatly influenced by Freud, and they were both similar in structure and arrangement of the human personality. And Erikson wanted to work to not only differ from Freud, but to actually expand what he had already talked about in his theory. And according to psychologist Charles Stinger in his 2011 book published by Flat Road Knowledge, both Freud and Erikson's ideas both fall under psychodynamic approach to psychology, which focuses on the role of our unconscious thoughts, feelings, and memories and our early childhood experiences in determining behavior. But with Erikson's theory, he kind of expanded it into 8 different stages instead of 5 like Freud. And according to Saul McLeod again, in the 2013 article published on the Simply Psychology website, Erikson proposed a lifespan of development taking in the 5 stages of up to 18 years and 3 stages beyond, well into adulthood. Erikson suggests that there's still plenty of room for continued growth and development throughout one's life. Erikson put a great deal of emphasis on the adolescent period, feeling it was a crucial stage for developing a person's identity. So what are these stages he proposed, you may ask? Well, now that I've discussed the background, I am going to go into the stages of his theory, and to better understand it, I'm going to separate it into 2 different slots. First is going to be from infant to 11 years old, and then from adolescence to the older adulthood. So the first stage is trust versus mistrust, which develops at about 0 to 1 years old, so from the time they're born to about 1 year old. Now the child develops a belief whether the environment can be counted on to meet his or her basic psychological and social needs. So if a baby is crying, it's going to test you whether or not you bring like a bottle or comfort to him or her. And if you don't, then that kind of shows them that they can't trust their environment. And the second stage is autonomy versus shame and doubt, and this happens about 1 to 3 years old. And the child learns what he or she cannot control and develops a sense of free will and corresponding sense of regret and sorrow for inappropriate use of self-control. And the third stage is initiative versus guilt, and this is 3 to 6 years old. The child begins to learn action, to explore and imagine, as well as feel remorse for their actions. Stage 4, which will be the last part of this section, is industry versus inferiority, which is 6 to 11 years old, and the child learns to do things well or correctly in comparison to a standard or to others. I'm taking from Berger's 2014 book, published by Word Club. Now, this is where it kind of gets a little confusing. So stage 5 is the identity versus role confusion. And this is about teenage years. This is where everybody's going through their different phases. And this is where we develop a sense of self in relationships to our own internal thoughts and desires. And yeah, it's a hot mess. And then we go into young adulthood, where many of us are in this room. And this is where we develop the ability to give love and to receive love, and begin to make long-term commitment to relationships. And stage 7 is generosity versus stagnation. This is middle adulthood, where we develop an interest in guiding the development of the next generation, meaning that we can take into consideration whether we want to help out the next generation or just say screw them all and do our own lives. And then the final stage of our lives is ego integrity versus despair. And this is the final stage of our lives, as I said before, and we develop a sense of acceptance of life as it was lived, and the importance of the people and relationships that we develop in our lifespan. So now that you see all of these, the reason I chose this particular theory is because I want to work with kids, and I've always loved with kids. So I think seeing this, it'll let you see the world in a whole new perspective, and you begin to take your everyday life and see people, and you basically compare them to this theory and see if they're with the rest of what you think the world should be. So now that we've discussed Erickson's psychosocial stages of development and how we can actually use it and observe it in our everyday lives, let's wrap this up. So it's important to learn about Erickson's theory in order to better understand our future generations. Firstly, I gave background on Erik Erikson. Secondly, I described each developmental stage of Erickson's theory. And lastly, I discussed how this theory can be implemented into everyday life. So now maybe when you see a baby crying for a bottle, you'll know whether they're testing you to see if they can trust